We normally do a top 5 at the start here, Evan, but this week, so busy, we are going to do a top 6 before we go NFC and then AFC. Number 1 story comes from Seattle. What a week for the Seahawks. Sunday night, they just embarrassed the Commanders in Washington, moved to 6-2. And then on Tuesday, Seahawks signaled they're going for it, give up 4th and 5th round pick to acquire Rashid Shaheed. I know this maybe didn't look like it was a need. Seahawks already have one of the best deep passing games in the NFL, but I think Rashid Shaheed is such a great fit here for this offense. I totally get it. Evan, what did you think of the Rashid Shaheed to Seattle trade?
You couldn't come up with a more sensible acquisition than Rashid Shaheed going to Seattle, in that Seattle's offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, knows Rashid Shaheed from New Orleans, understands his strengths and weaknesses. And also, the Seahawks are a decidedly vertical, explosive downfield passing team. Rashid Shaheed is a decidedly vertical, downfield, explosive, big play receiver. So this was the perfect acquisition. And then I think what does it do to Torrey Horton, who just had a breakout game? I think that the Seahawks should try to incorporate him, but the Seahawks love to continue to incorporate him and increase his role. That might come at the expense of Cooper Kupp moving JSN into the slot. I'll tell you what, it gives the Seahawks a ton of different options. The Seahawks also have one of the highest 2 tight end rates in the NFL, and they love those players, A.J. Barner and Elijah Arroyo. All of a sudden, they feel loaded in the pass catcher core. Their running game, the Seahawks running game, has been a fairly large disappointment. Their passing game has been one of the best in the NFL. They are number 1 in the NFL in EPA per pass attempt this year. Sam Darnold is 20-1 to win MVP right now, which I actually think is an okay bet. But I think he's going to finish strong. He's been playing at a super, super high level, and this just supplements their passing game further.
Okay, so I'll say a few things. First, totally agree. Shaheed, awesome fit. Clint Kubiak's going to use him and use him well. I was hoping that there would be a true second half breakout for Torrey Horton. Ideally, they barely use Cooper Kupp, but we've seen in the past teams can get stubborn with these kind of veterans. I think that what they should do ideally, and they're, like Evan said, they're in a lot of 2 wide receiver stuff. When they're in 2 wide receiver, it's probably going to be JSN and Shaheed. In 3 wide receiver, I'd love to see them have Horton and Shaheed on the outside, JSN in the slot. Now, all this does not include Cooper Kupp, and that's why I'm a little bit queasy to say it, because coaches, guys like Cooper Kupp, when he gets back from his injury, I could see them playing him some more. So it's going to be a bit hairy there, I think, for Horton. I do think that, well, people are going to ask right away, Evan. I don't think it really matters, but people are going to ask right away, do you think this is bad for JSN? The only reason that I would say that, the only reason that JSN stats could go down, they can't go any higher. Like, he literally can't do any better. He's having like the perfect season. I don't think it'll be because of Shaheed, but there could be some regression on JSN naturally. So any more thoughts on Horton and JSN here and Kupp as the incumbents?
Well, even if they come out, even if they come out in weeks 10 and 11, with playing Cooper Kupp as their third receiver, which, by the way, he's nursing an injury. I mean, he missed last week with a hamstring injury. Now they're in a short week. I mean, they can't rely on Cooper Kupp to stay healthy in the second half of the season anyway. So this was a needed move, as well as a move that made all kinds of reasonable sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I would project it. Assuming that Cooper Kupp is healthy, he stays in the slot, JSN flanker, Rashid Shaheed running the downfield stuff, and then we'll see, because it's probably Cooper Kupp is a dog to stay healthy for the rest of the season.
Okay, last thing for me on this trade specifically, it was only a 4th and a 5th round pick. I think the Bills are doing Josh Allen a disservice by throwing him out there with primary targets that only are good around the line of scrimmage, like Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid. And so it was disappointing to me as someone who thinks Josh Allen is just an absolutely incredible player, and he deserves better weapons than what he has. So I thought the Bills should have gone harder after Shaheed specifically as a perfect fit for what they were doing.
Yeah, I feel
get
like
into it.
there's a little bit of hubris going on there with Brandon Beane. You remember how that's the Bills GM. You remember how he just flipped out on reporters or whatever it was that were asking him, questioning about his moves at the wide receiver position. We're the number one offense in the NFL or whatever,
Right.
the previous year. Like he flipped out defending his lack of aggressiveness when it comes to upgrading his pass catcher core. And I mean, look, the Bills have been doing very, very well this year. But, to get over that final hump, which they have not been able to do, you certainly would have liked to have seen the Bills go after Rashid Shaheed, especially at this very, very affordable price.
Yep. We'll also get to Jacoby Myers in a second. And not that I thought Jacoby Myers was a great fit for what the Bills want to do, but they did not seem to be in the mix for him either. Last thing on Seattle. One of the reasons it's such a good fit, people don't realize Sam Darnold is second among all quarterbacks in average depth of target. He is pushing the ball deep down the field, and he's still sixth in completion percentage. It is so hard to throw the ball deep down the field and still be sixth in completion percentage. So just an awesome upgrade at the quarterback position for Shaheed here. Obviously, I think volume will be less for Shaheed in Seattle than it was in New Orleans. Seattle is 28th in plays per game. Seattle averages just 27 and a half pass attempts per game. New Orleans averages 35 pass attempts per game, but I think that'll be offset by the efficiency. So still like this move here for Shaheed. All right. Story number 2 comes from Jacksonville. This game, first of all, before we get to the trade, Jags Raiders was 6-3 at the half. It ends 30-29 in overtime. Jaguars win. Just a wild fourth quarter and OT. On the Jaguars side, the story was the wide receiver stuff, and that carried into this trade. Travis Hunter, knee injury. He's on IR at least 3 more games. Parker Washington was outplaying Brian Thomas Jr. until Brian Thomas Jr. went down with an ankle injury. De'Ami Brown sustained a concussion in this game. So you end up with this really big Parker Washington breakout, 8 for 90 on 9 targets. He played a really good game. Nice fingertip catches. Shout out Penn State. But in the backdrop of all that, on Tuesday, Jaguars go out, give up a 4th and a 6th round pick to get Jacoby Myers, who is 28 years old, in the final year of his contract. Evan, what did you think about the Jaguars' decision to go out and get Jacoby Myers?
Yeah, I mean, they need healthy bodies at wide receiver right now. Brian Thomas apparently has some variation of a high ankle sprain. Travis Hunter came into the league a little bit raw as a wide receiver. Now he is missing time, although the reports on him seem positive that he probably will only miss 3 more games, Travis Hunter, that is. And then, like, if I'm in, any kind of a season-long league, like, I'm trying to hold on to him through this because it sounds like he will be back right at the end of his IR stint. Brenton Strange is on IR, and Jacoby Myers wanted out of Las Vegas, and he made that abundantly clear. So, yeah, I think that this is a good fit. I don't know what to I don't have like super high expectations for Jacoby Myers going to Jacksonville from a fantasy standpoint, but I think from a real life standpoint, he makes sense going there.
I have not seen Trevor Lawrence as a talent elevator whatsoever. And given the way that Jacoby was playing this season for the Raiders, which was not very impressive, I'd agree with Evan. It's not like I'm running out to pick him up. In fact, Parker Washington looks like a better wide receiver right now than Jacoby. I don't know. That's a really small sample. I think over the longer term, Jacoby looks way better. But yeah, I thought Parker Washington played a really good game. And God, this Brian Thomas stuff before the ankle injury, before BTJ's ankle injury in this game, Parker Washington was outplaying him. And we talked last week on Friday and on Sunday, Parker Washington was outplaying Brian Thomas in a lot of metrics this season already. So what do you think about keeping Parker Washington here as a hold? Obviously, when Travis Hunter gets back, it's going to get crowded. We'll see on De'Ami Brown's concussion. But yeah, what do you think about Parker Washington outlook now in the backdrop of the Jacoby stuff?
Parker Washington's another guy that, I think he's, definitely an NFL player, but he was inherited by this regime as a late round pick. He's a worthwhile NFL player that the Jaguars essentially just replaced. They're going to keep him around on the team because, De'Ami Brown has also dealt with health stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that Parker Washington is going to be helping anybody in fantasy football. The way that the current pass catcher core is constructed.
Okay. Yeah. Sad. One last thing on the Jaguars. Coming out of their bye, we thought maybe there's a boost for Bashal Tutin coming. He did get 9 carries in this game and scored, but snaps were Travis Etienne 46, LaKint Allen 22, Bishal Tootin 20, and carries were 22-9 for Etienne in favor of Tootin. So I did not really see a role change for Tootin, and I thought Travis Etienne played a pretty good game. Good to see Tootin at least get in the box, though, for the touchdown. Story number 3. Oh, sad one here. Well, first, Packers continue to play down to the level of their competition. They lost to the Browns. They tied the Cowboys. They barely beat the Cardinals. And now the Packers lose to the Panthers at home. And along the way, they suffer a horrible injury. Tucker Kraft, one of the sharpest and best picks of the fantasy football season, tears his ACL and is done for the season. Evan, your thoughts on Packers going forward rest of year here without Tucker Kraft?
I think it's a really big blow to Green Bay's chances in real life because Tucker Kraft, you can make an argument that he's the best player on the Packers offense. He was a tight end that, is an every down tight end, is good in the blocking game, was averaging 12 and a half yards per reception after the catch, not 12 and a half yards per catch, which would be a very good number for a tight end, 12 and a half yards per reception after the catch. Okay. I mean, he has emerged as, one of the best 3 tight ends in football. And that's a really big blow to the Packers. Luke Musgrave, who they actually drafted ahead of Tucker Kraft a couple of years ago, his opportunities should rise. In this particular game, the Packers, they generated almost 370 yards of offense. I mean, they moved the ball offensively, but turnovers, breakdowns in scoring position, and you get one of the biggest upsets. It's the biggest upset from a point spread standpoint. The Packers were favored by 13.5 points at home at Lambeau against the Panthers in a couple of years. This is a massive, massive upset.
Yeah. I just want to double click on Luke Musgrave for a second. So as Evan mentioned, Luke Musgrave was the 42nd overall pick out of Oregon State in the 2023 draft. Packers thought a lot of him coming out 42nd overall before Tucker Kraft. Now, he has been completely iced by Kraft, like barely running routes. In this game, he ended up running 20 routes in relief of Tucker Kraft, caught 3 balls for 34 yards on 3 targets. So I think, Evan, we kind of throw him into the mix with a lot of these guys that are like, he'll probably catch 3 or 4 balls in the game. If he scores a touchdown, that's great. If not, it's not going to be good. I mean, any more upside for you in Musgrave than what I just described?
That's almost exactly how I would describe him to a T. Also, Matthew Golden left this game with a shoulder injury.
Yeah, they're calling him day to day. Sounds like he's going to be okay. But yeah.
Okay.
Not ideal. Not ideal for sure. So they lost Golden in this game. They lost Kraft. You end up with Romeo Doubs and Watson running pretty much all the routes, which you don't see the Packers do very often. Malik Heath and Savion Williams behind them. Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed should be back soon. But again, it doesn't sound like Matthew Golden's shoulder injury is that big a deal. I didn't feel like it, but I ended up dropping him. I didn't love it, but I ended up dropping him in a league before this week. And yeah, it's just getting crowded there. And
I think that even with Tucker Kraft gone, there's just not enough of a path to clear-cut relevance based in part just on how the Packers play with their usual commitment to using 4 or 5 receivers on game days and, their balance to run heavy preference of play.
Last note for me on the Packers is the running back stuff. So we talked about this a bunch on the Friday show and on Sunday. Josh Jacobs continues to nurse this calf injury. Leading into this game in week 9, he was limited. He only played 38 of 65 snaps in this game, in a game they lost at home. Emmanuel Wilson played 21 snaps. Chris Brooks played 11 snaps. So, Josh Jacobs still has 17 carries plus 5 targets. He's still an awesome play. But those, with this calf thing, they're not going to be like, 30, 35 touches for Josh Jacobs here. That's not really in the cards while he has this calf thing. I think it would have been previously. So we'll see there. Eagles next for the Packers in a good game on Monday Night Football in Week 10. Let's go to the story number 4, Washington football team. What a nightmare week and what a nightmare night for the Commanders. They just totally no-show this game on Sunday Night Football. They look like they honestly look like a JV team against the Seahawks. And then, for some unknown reason, just a mistake, as Dan Quinn said, they have Jaden Daniels in the game down 31 points, and he sustains a dislocated left elbow. Now, this is his non-throwing elbow, so there's some chance that he can be back sooner rather than later. Timeline, though, is completely up in the air right now. And I have some other bad news for the Commanders, too, we can get to. But, Evan, they face-planted the game. They lost Jaden Daniels. It is a mess right now. What do you think of Commanders going forward without Jaden?
Well, I got to hear the other bad news first.
The other bad news, they lost Marshawn Lattimore for the season to a torn ACL.
Well, that's bad news for the opponent.
And they lost Luke McCaffrey for the season with a broken collarbone. Oh, and Ja'Cory Krasky-Merritt. Oh, and they've already ruled Terry McLaurin out for Week 10. Oh, and Ja'Cory Krasky-Merritt cannot find.
And Frankie Louvu got suspended.
Yeah. A lot of bad news.
I mean, year 2 of Dan Quinn has been a disaster. I mean, it feels like Washington's season. I think we could say Washington is buried at this point. They're not coming back from this.
Really bad.
And that's bad for Ja'Cory Krasky-Merritt, who we know needs positive game script to be able to generate fantasy relevant production, and they're not going to be able to get that because their defense has fallen off a cliff. I think you tweeted it out. Yards per play, Washington is bottom 3 in yards per play allowed this year, allowing 6.2 yards per play defensively, and they lost their quarterback. And Terry McLaurin, I mean, it already feels like a lost year for him after the holdout with the quad injury. There are even rumors today that Washington might be looking into trading Deebo Samuel, which that would be a throw in the towel move, which, I mean, they probably should throw in the towel right now. I mean, if they're being realistic.
Yeah, doesn't look like that's going to happen. It is 4 p.m. Eastern as we talk right now. So unless something trickles in late here, looks like Deebo is going to be staying. So yeah, the Terry McLaurin stuff is just already to be ruled out for Week 10. I mean, his season is just in the absolute toilet. And so now you're going to have Marcus Mariota throwing to Zach Ertz and Deebo Samuel, just no explosiveness whatsoever. Now, we will have a reasonable projection on Marcus Mariota most weeks that he starts just because he can run and he can run for touchdowns. So, if you need a little something in a pinch, we'll probably have Mariota for 15 or 16 points home against the Lions next week, I would suspect. Jaden keeps getting hurt, man. Already missed 3 games this season with knee and hamstring issues. Now he has this elbow issue. It's just not great. And yeah, to Evan's point on JCM has gotten 51 carries. Bill, I'm talking about, has gotten 51 carries in the last 4 games. His longest rush is 11 yards. If he's not going to make explosive plays and he's not going to play in the pass game, it's just an absolute disaster. So, man, I couldn't imagine many teams having a worse week than the Washington Commanders. Story 5. Let's go to Chicago. So, as everyone does when they face the Bengals, the Bears offense had a major breakout. They win 47-42 in another truly wild game at Cincinnati. The reason this is a big story is the Kyle Monangai breakout. Swift and Roschon Johnson were out. Monangai gets 26 carries for 176 yards. He also caught the ball 3 times. Honestly, he ran bad not to have like 40 or 45 fantasy points. So, sports talk, and Caleb caught a touchdown, threw for 3, ran for 53 yards. Sports Talk Radio guys are going to have a lot to talk about this week, Evan. Do you think
they've been talking a lot, baby?
Do you think Monangai is going to continue to steal stuff from Swift once Swift gets healthy? And any other Bears thoughts off of this wild win?
Absolutely. I mean, I've never thought that DeAndre Swift was, a true workhorse bell cow back. And Kyle Monangai in this game, and look, it was against Cincinnati, and oh my God, the alleys that the Bears offensive line cleared. I mean, it wasn't even just like one alley. It was like on specific plays. There were 2 alleys. Kyle Monangai could pick wherever he wanted to go. He was going to gain a ton of yards, but he did gain, according to Next Gen Stats, 60 yards above expectation. So he was adding to his runs. He's got great balance. He does not have great explosiveness and burst and breakaway speed. He ran 4.6 coming out of Rutgers. That's why he goes in the 7th round. But he's got great balance, contact balance, and he's very instinctive. And he got everything that was blocked and more. He averaged almost 7 yards per carry. He was already eating into DeAndre Swift before this, and then he gets this huge opportunity. It wouldn't surprise me if Kyle Monangai makes it a 50-50 split or even 55-45 in his favor while DeAndre Swift is dealing with another soft tissue injury, which has gotten worse because he's been on the injury report for a few weeks, and now it finally caused him to miss a game.
Mhm.
I mean, I think a lot of people around the NFL, and myself included, have always considered DeAndre Swift better as a complementary back. There is a scenario where that could happen. The Bears, I want to emphasize, I can't emphasize this enough. They are run blocking like you would not believe. I mean, that's the basis of this offense. And Caleb Williams had a great game in the box score this week. But man, this team is right now is built around the run. All 5 guys up front are blocking out the sun. Darnell Wright looks like the best run blocking right tackle in the league. Colston Loveland blocked great in his expanded opportunities here. They are using a 6th offensive lineman on a ton of plays.
Yeah.
Ozzie Trapillo, their 2nd-round pick, they found a role for him.
Eagles are doing that too. Yeah.
On downfield, yes. With Fred Johnson.
Yeah.
On downfield runs, Roma Dunze had a number of big-time blocks. And this is, kind of how Ben Johnson got it cooking in Detroit, was with the running game. And, I mean, he's doing that in Chicago right now.
I want to talk about the Colston Loveland breakout. So the Bengals are the worst team in the NFL against tight ends for 2 years straight now. It's like outlier crazy how bad they are against tight end, almost like they're like trying to give catches to tight end. And then in the middle of this game or early in the game, Cole Kmet sustains a concussion. He only ran 4 routes. So Colston Loveland ends up with his best roll of the season, 34 routes. In the wildest game of the season, turns 7 targets into 6 catches, 118 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I like Colston Loveland. I took a ton of Colston Loveland in the best ball stuff, so I'm glad to see this. I just don't want to necessarily overreact to a game against the Bengals that Cole Kmet left early with a concussion. But I can also see the case that the cat's out of the bag on Colston Loveland now, and they have to keep featuring him. Evan, what do you think about Loveland outlook going forward here?
I mean, everything broke right for him in this game, and we have to acknowledge that. He went against the best possible matchup in the league for tight ends, and Cole Kmet went out in the first half, fairly early in the first half, with a concussion. And the way that things have been going in the NFL, like if you get concussed, it's very unlikely that you're going to be back the next game. So I would expect Cole Kmet to be out against the Giants, which is another great matchup for tight ends. But Colston Loveland, I mean, it's hard to take anything away from him also because he played so well in this game, breaking tackles. He was a man among boys, both as a receiver and as a blocker. I mean, this is the player that Ryan Poles, the Bears GM, envisioned when he drafted Colston Loveland at number 9 ahead of Tyler Warren. I mean, this was, as good as any game that Tyler Warren has played this year. I mean, this was an awesome freaking game from Colston Loveland. And I've been hard on all these guys, but credit where it's due. And again, we need to have the context that everything went right for Colston Loveland, but he more than capitalized on his opportunity.
Yeah, he looked awesome. There's no doubt. How can you explain, Evan, or can you explain that the Bears scored 47 points and Rome Odunze airballed on 3 targets? 8% target share for Rome Odunze. They scored 47 points. He has 0 catches. His dad, Rome Odunze's dad, is out here on Twitter tweeting like advanced stats from like PFF and stuff about
he shouldn't be doing that.
about why Rome is open and should be getting the ball more. Is this just a fluke, or do you have any concern about Rome off this air ball here?
No, I don't. And Rome Odunze did not play a good game in the receiving department. I think he had 3 targets.
8% target share, yeah.
Yeah, he had 2 drops. He had 2 drops. One of them was thrown behind him in the end zone by Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams got mad at him for. I mean, it was a bad throw, but I mean, it hit Rome Odunze in both of his hands. He should have caught it. Another one was a bad drop real early. He had DJ Turner on him. That not many players on the Bengals have played well this year on defense.
Yeah,
maybe 1 or 2, and DJ Turner, for the most part, has been one of them.
Yeah.
So that kind of explained that.
Okay. 6th and final top story of the week is the Raiders. So the Raiders lose in overtime to the Jaguars, but it was a great day for the Raiders because Brock Bowers was back and back healthy, seemingly fully recovered from the PCL. Bowers goes off for 12 catches, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns on 13 targets, a 33% share. He's out there mossing guys. I talked a ton about Bowers and tight end strategy stuff on the solo pod. Hopefully you guys check that out. But yeah, Evan, we'll start on the Bowers stuff. What do you think of that? And then we need to get to Jacoby Myers being gone and the fallout from that for the Raiders.
I think that it was fair to maybe have some concern that Brock Bowers might not yet be back to 100%, but I mean, he answered those questions quickly. I remember watching Brock Bowers when he was a freshman at Georgia, and it was just like, you see him get the ball, and like, it's like, what in the is that? And that's what it was like on Sunday. He was absolutely 100%. You know, this was an unbelievable performance, and I mean, it's just good to have this dude that people drafted in the second round, you know, and it's good that he was able to bounce back with this because they hadn't gotten really anything out of him since week 1.
Yeah. Okay. I thought the Raiders did well to get a 4th-round pick and a 6th-round pick for Jacoby Myers from the Jaguars. Like, that's the kind of deal I would have been looking for if I was the Raiders, because he has 9 games left on his contract. He's not coming back. You get a 4th and a 6th-round pick. I think that's pretty good. Also, Jacoby Myers was playing the role that they have ticketed Jack Besh for. So I'm hopeful that we don't see more Tyler Lockett. I'm hopeful that we see Jack Besh in Jacoby Myers' role. But regardless, I think it's going to be Trey Tucker and Brock Bowers as the primary targets. Michael Mayer is going to be in line a ton, and Bowers is going to be playing like a wide receiver type role. So yeah, Evan, any more thoughts on Raiders going forward without Jacoby Myers?
Yeah, I'm worried that Jack Besh is not going to get this opportunity because Tyler Lockett in this game, who's buddies with Pete Carroll and his buddies with Geno Smith, I don't think that Jack Besh played a single offensive snap in this game, if I'm correct.
I'll check.
Yeah. And Tyler Lockett played a bunch. And, you know, the cronyism runs deep in the NFL. And we know that. We've been over that a million times. I'm just worried that Jack Besh isn't going to get this opportunity.
Yeah, Besh did not play a snap. Lockett played 19 in this game.
Yeah. Other notes, I have Next Gen Stats has credited Ashton Genty with 46 missed tackles forced.
Yeah.
That is the 3rd most in the league. He did not excel on the ground here, but he's been really good in the passing game when he's been given those opportunities. And also looking at because the Raiders played the Broncos on Thursday night this week, Colton Miller is still not practicing on the injured reserve.
Evan, would you add Trey Tucker off waivers? We saw him pop up for that huge game against Washington.
Yeah.
In theory, he gets a bump without Jacoby Myers. Although Jacoby Myers was playing so bad, I'm not even sure that it matters. Any thoughts on Trey Tucker for the people?
Yeah, I mean, he plays a ton of snaps still. I mean, he's not coming out of the rotation, obviously. It's just he's super, super volatile the way that they use him. So you could get some real, real duds in there. But I do think that he should be rostered in leagues where you have like 7, 8 bench spots.
Yeah.
I think that he should be rostered in those leagues. But you just got to know what you're dealing with. Like he could give, he's got to catch a bomb or two. He'll be good for you. If he doesn't, then he's not going to do it. He could give you 2 catches for 11 yards.
And I mean, we've talked about this a ton, but Raiders schedule, Broncos this week. They still have to play the Browns. They play the Broncos again, Eagles, Texans on the road in the fantasy playoffs. So just keep that in mind on Raiders stuff here going forward. The NBA season is underway. We cover it with the same intensity we cover the NFL. Dink, Gallagher, and the NBA team have 3 products that run during the season. In season, aimed at people playing DFS. DFS projections, shows, top plays, ownership, etc. Full stat details product. Access to what we project in every category for every player, every game. And lastly, the official prop sub. Please be sure you read the FAQ on that. It is not for casual betting. Official release lines will move very quickly. Check out details on all of our NBA products at establishtheRun.com. All right, let's go to the NFC now. We'll start with the Arizona Cardinals. And honestly, if it wasn't such a crazy week, this could have been a top story because Kyler Murray, it seemed to me at least that Kyler Murray was healthy enough to play in this game. There were even reports that there could be packages for Kyler Murray in this game, but they decided to go with Jacoby Brissett. And as we've talked about on here for the last month, as it sits, I don't really blame the coaches for going with Brissett. He gives them a better chance to win. He goes out there on Monday Night Football in front of everyone, unlocks Marvin Harrison, continues to unlock Trey McBride in the red zone, and beats the Cowboys in Dallas with ease. Evan, this Kyler Brissett stuff is getting real messy for the Cardinals right now. What do you think of Brissett last night and the Cardinals quarterback situation?
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett, and I mean, I have all kinds of respect for him. He's a really tough dude, and he's had a nice career for what he is, and he absolutely has brought to life the Cardinals passing game for the last 3-4 games or whatever it is that he has played. He's about to turn 33. He turns 33 next month, and he's on his 7th NFL team. And the Cardinals just benched one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, the number 1 overall pick in his draft, for a 33-year-old journeyman. Mm-hmm. That's a really, really big move that you do not see. And I know they're still saying, oh, yeah, Kyler's the starter. That's a bunch of BS. Maybe he's their nominal starter, but they are starting Jacoby Brissett. And that's good news for Marvin Harrison. Yeah. It's been great for Trey McBride. And I think we saw, Emery DeMarcado have a really nice game when given the opportunity on the ground. They cut out Michael Carter out of the RB rotation. Will Trey Benson be back? I don't know. I feel like we don't get enough news on guys like that.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett is running Drew Petzing's offense at a higher level than Kyler Murray was, and we've been talking about that for weeks.
Brissett's been better than I thought that he would, but just schematically, you can see it. He's under center more than Kyler. They run play action more, and these like crossers over the middle to Marvin Harrison, that was not happening under Kyler. And so I have this massive Marvin Harrison fade, and I'm like legit worried now that Brissett is going to like send Marvin to the moon. Meanwhile, we have Marvin Harrison Sr., one of the best fantasy players ever from a previous generation, out here saying, I mean, he was like, print this. The Cardinals coaching staff has no idea what they're doing. That's basically what he said. But anyways, man, it's wild in Arizona right now.
Here's the thing. The Cardinals, by saying that nothing has changed, which was the quote from Jonathan Gannon, that allows them to reserve the right to, if Jacoby Brissett goes to Seattle next and struggles, they could put back Kyler Murray in.
Yeah.
So I mean, this thing could still change at the drop of a hat.
And they're going to keep him on Kyler on the injury report with a foot. So they have that out too. They can just say, oh, his foot's still bothering him. It's not quite 100%. Kyler is in the second year of a 5-year, $230 million extension. I mean, pretty crazy. Evan mentioned Trey Benson. I am hopeful that Trey Benson will be back soon. I do think he should be rostered. They're doing hot hand stuff now with Bam Knight and Amari DeMarcado. Trey Benson should be rostered, though. I think that he has some chance to be back here in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Let's go to the Falcons. Falcons got Michael Penix back for this game in New England. They got Drake London back. I thought they actually played a pretty decent game. They lose 24-23. Story of the game was Drake London. Oh, my God. Saw a decent amount of Christian Gonzalez and still went 9 catches, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns on 14 targets. Made some truly unreal catches, did Drake London. Evan, what do you think of Falcons game in Foxborough?
Yeah, and that's one of the best secondaries in the league, New England. And so to see Drake London do that, I mean, this is kind of what we envision. I was telling the story about how Brian Baldinger went to Falcons camp, and he was like, I've never been to a training camp practice where the ball went to one guy on every single passing play, and that was Drake London. And when Drake London has been healthy this year, and everything's kind of been moving in the right direction for Atlanta, he has massive target potential. Mm-hmm. And we saw him capitalize on it. That was awesome. The Falcons did not run the ball well for the second game in a row. Now, Bijan is getting there with receiving, and he's been unbelievable as a receiver this year. I love that part of his game has been unlocked. But their run game has all of a sudden encountered some issues.
Yeah. The Falcons defense was back here. I mean, we talked about their performance against Miami, which was absolutely awful. In this game, they get 6 sacks on Drake May. They forced Drake May to fumble twice. They almost get return one for a touchdown. So it's been volatile for Falcons defense, but they definitely can play. I mean, they blitz so much that if you're not prepared for that, you're going to take a lot of sacks. Darnell Mooney only got 2 targets on 37 Michael Penix attempts here. I'm tempted to drop Mooney also. In the similar vein that I was with Matthew Golden. Mooney had the game without Drake London that he failed in, and now he only gets 2 targets on 37 attempts here. It's just been so bad for Darnell Mooney this season here all year.
Yeah, it made sense in theory to think that because Michael Penix is like theoretically a downfield vertical passer, and Darnell Mooney is that kind of receiver, that they would mesh, and it just hasn't happened at all. At no point, and I'm sure that some of it has to do with the hamstring and missing a ton of training camp and all that. But there's just been no reason for optimism provided by Darnell Mooney.
Yep. Let's go to the Panthers. What a win for Carolina. Go up to Lambeau and win 16-13. And honestly, they do it like the only way they really can. Bryce Young only drops back 24 times in this win. He only throws for 102 yards, no touchdowns. They just give it to Rico Dowdle. Just give it to Rico Dowdle. 25 carries, 130 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and he carries them to this win. Evan, what do you think of Panthers game against Green Bay?
Again, one of the biggest upsets in the NFL of the last several seasons. And God, my write-up was just like, oh, it's over for every Panther, like, no, don't, try to find somebody else. Try to find somebody else. And that looked terrible. And Rico Dowdle absolutely balled out. He's got like a chip on his shoulder or something, because the Pack, you go on the road as 2 touchdown dogs against one of the better run defenses in the NFL. Like, there's no positive data point suggesting that Rico Dowdle could have a game like that. But he's been unbelievable. And, the Panthers really, and they know this because you could tell with the way that they play, like their offensive line, their whole nucleus as an offensive team is built around running the ball. They will run the ball when they're behind on the scoreboard. And they know where their bread is buttered and how they can pull off an upset like this, whether dangerous, why they could, beat the Falcons 30-0. They're kind of like a dangerous team week to week, and obviously we saw that here.
Yeah, when they get behind, they're in trouble, right? But when they can play from ahead like this or play neutral, they can run the ball, man. They are dead last in pass rate over expectation. Like Evan said, even when they're behind, when other teams are choosing or the average team throws, they are just running and running and running. And it's not great for Teteroa McMillan, right? Like the way they're playing right now has not been great for him. And obviously it's left Coker and Leggett and these guys basically dead. Last thing, by the way, Rico Dowdle got flagged for 2 pumps. Now, a 2-pump celebration. Now, he was under the impression that there should be a 3 pumps for a flag. And so we have an actual quote. What a league. He says, from my understanding and everything I've learned, and we go over stuff like this every week in the meeting room, I definitely think you're supposed to get 2 pumps, Dowdle said. Hopefully, I don't get a fine. So, listen, man, the pump police is out. It's really, really amazing. What a league. Let's go to the Cowboys. Cowboys absolutely faceplant on Monday Night Football. They muster just 17 points at home to the Cardinals. It was really disappointing Dak game here. He takes 5 sacks, just 6.4 yards per attempt, even though he had Lamb, Pickens, and Ferguson all healthy. Then they make a trade on Monday. Cowboys receive defensive tackle Quinnen Williams. Jets receive 2026 second-round pick and a 2027 first-round pick and defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. So, Evan, what do you think of the game? And then we'll get to the Quinnen Williams trade here as well.
Yeah, a disappointing performance. The Cardinals can scheme it up on defense, though, under Jonathan Gannon. They've been one of the best coach defenses, I think, over the past several years, and that's despite not great talent. They have okay talent now, but they can, pull a real tough defensive performance out of their hat kind of at random. And they did that against one of the best offenses in the league. CeeDee Lamb didn't kill you. George Pickens didn't kill you. Jake Ferguson, 5 for 50 from any tight end. We'll take that. But yeah, relative to expectations, relative to how Dallas had been performing up until this point, a little bit of a letdown. That's wild what they gave up for Quinnen Williams. And I know that Quinnen Williams is a really good player, but a first and a second, and Quinnen Williams is not cheap either. Like, they're inheriting a big contract. And that's not going to save Dallas's defense either. So whatever.
Yeah. Do you think we should have different expectations for Dallas's defense at all? Like in the DVP stuff, now that they have Quinnen Williams, their rush defense or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, no, it's not going to move the needle. Jaden Blue was a healthy scratch in this game, and now they're going into their bye,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, so he's a drop, obviously. No reason to stash him through his bye. And then the Cowboys did activate Cooper Beebe off of injured reserve, their starting center. So when they come out of their bye, they should have all 5 of their starting offensive linemen. It's not like that game was like a concern going forward. It's just like a little bit of a letdown in that spot. But the Cowboys should finish very, very strong offensively after they come out of the off week.
Yeah, the Jaden Blue thing wasn't random. There were some Coach Speak stuff. Shout out to Coach Speak Index for picking up on Jaden Blue was criticized by the coaches after week 8. He had a fumble, pass protection issues. Coaches were ripping him for lack of consistency. So that wasn't like random, oh, Jaden Blue's inactive. They were mad at him, and that is why Malik Davis was active over Jaden Blue there in that game. Lions. Bad loss for the Lions here. They come out of their bye, they're pumped to go on a run, and they lose at home to JJ McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. The lack of Gibbs usage I thought was odd. Now, I know Brian Flores blitzes a ton, and Gibbs was not handling it well. Montgomery's handling it better, but still, for Gibbs to only get 12 opportunities in a game they lose and only 3 targets, an 8% share in a game they lose, just not enough for me. Evan, what do you think of Lions' loss to the Vikings?
The Lions got like badly outcoached in this game. And I mean, the Vikings had some things go well for them. Like the Lions offensive line, I'll be looking at that on Wednesday. They have like 4 injuries on the offensive line right now. So I'll be monitoring that closely. They are playing Washington, which can be a get-right defense.
Mm-hmm.
But their offensive line all of a sudden is extremely banged up. But, I mean, Brian Flores took Jahmyr Gibbs out of the game. Jahmyr Gibbs had to pass block on 16 of his snaps. That's the most he ever has in his career. So what does Jahmyr Gibbs play in a usual game? 35 snaps? I mean, almost half of his snaps were dedicated just to pass blocking.
Yeah, he played 42 here, yep.
And so, I mean, he's not getting the ball when he's pass blocking, So Brian Flores like outcoached the Lions and took Jahmyr Gibbs, their most explosive player, out of the football game. So that's just hats off to Brian Flores.
We did get a little bit of a breakout for Jameson Williams, sick 37-yard touchdown catch. Other than that touchdown catch, though, he was kind of quiet again. 16% target share, roughly where he's been through this year. Only good thing I saw was his average depth of target was down to 9.2 yards in this game. So at least a couple more targets closer to the line of scrimmage for Jameson Williams here.
Jared Goff in this game, he was pressured on 48% of his dropbacks. He took 11 hits and 5 sacks. That does not happen to Jared Goff, especially in a game where the Lions are at home.
Yeah.
So, I think this was just Brian Flores went to work in this game, and hats off to him.
Let's go to the Los Angeles Rams. Rams moved to 6-2 with an easy home win over the Saints. We talked about on Friday and on Sunday, if the Rams were pushed at all in this game, Stafford and Puka and Devontae were in incredible spots. Stafford shreds here, 24 of 32, 281 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Speaking of MVP cases, Evan, I mean, you could make a legit case that Stafford is the NFL's MVP right now. Drake May, Mahomes, Josh Allen, those are your 4 favorites right now for MVP. Evan, thoughts on
I looked
Rams
at the odds
before,
and Stafford is number 4, I believe.
Yeah.
In sportsbook odds to win MVP. But I mean, I this was not a surprising result at all. I remember I had the score prediction like 30-3. Wasn't too far off, 34-10.
Yeah. We'll
talk about the Saints when we get there, but they didn't have the ball very much. In this one, the Rams had the ball like the entire game.
Puka Nacua sustained a rib injury in this game, and I just wanted to bring, it doesn't sound serious. Sounds like, he'll be day to day. I think, like, I'm real hesitant to say X guy is more injury prone than Y guy. But the way that Puka Nacua plays, he's over the middle. He's getting hit by big guys all the time.
They use him as a fullback sometimes.
They hand it to him, like, I think he's like more likely to get hurt than, I don't know, some other Justin Jefferson or something like that. Not by a ton, but just like a little bit more likely to get hurt. And he's been getting banged up here. So hopefully Puka Nacua is okay. Last note for me on the Rams, even when Puka Nacua is out there, these Devontae Adams red zone goal line plays, I mean, it's incredible. He had touchdowns from 3 yards out and 4 yards out. Devontae Adams now has 13 targets inside the 10-yard line this season. That's 5 more than any other player in the entire NFL. I mean, when they get down there to the 5, it's Devontae Adams time. And so just really good roles for both of them, Puka and Devontae.
Matthew Stafford has 20 touchdown passes this season. That's as many as he threw all last year.
It's crazy. Let's go to the Vikings. So this also could have been a top story if it wasn't such a busy week. But regardless of what you think, whether he was soft benched or not, the J.J. McCarthy era got back underway for the Vikings, and it was really encouraging. McCarthy goes to Detroit, accounts for 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 2 throwing. Vikings pull the upset. Evan, what did you think of J.J. McCarthy's return to the saddle here as the Vikings get a win in Detroit?
Yeah, I didn't really think that it was particularly encouraging for J.J. McCarthy. I think that, again, the story of this game was Brian Flores and the injuries to the Lions offensive line. And certainly, this was an awesome win for the Vikings. The Vikings needed this one bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big difference between 4-4 and, whatever their record would have been if they had lost this game. But I mean, they're still technically in it at 4-4. But 5 sacks taken on 30 dropbacks for J.J. McCarthy, 5.7 yards per pass attempt. He got hit 9 times on 30 dropbacks. Aaron Jones had a minor AC. Sounds like he'll be all right, but Aaron Jones, he's getting older, man.
Yeah.
He's taken a lot of hits in his career, and he has an AC joint sprain now. Through 3 starts, J.J. McCarthy, his passing yards totals through 3 starts, 143, 158, and 143.
Yeah.
And there still feels like when you're watching the Vikings, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of rhythm to what they do on offense when J.J. McCarthy is at quarterback.
So, I think we need to change the way we think about the Vikings. And credit to Evan, he was on this in the offseason, but they are no longer this team that no matter who they have at quarterback, they're going to relentlessly throw the ball. They're going to relentlessly throw the ball downfield. They're going to be one of the top teams in PROE. I don't think that's what they want, And so in this game, McCarthy only dropped back 32 times. Justin Jefferson has a 36% target share. They play good defense. Aaron Jones is really good. That's the recipe for them winning now. It's no longer like, oh, we have Nick Mullins, we have Josh Dobbs, we have Sam Darnold. We're just going to chuck it. They seem way more conservative here with J.J. McCarthy trying to run the ball, play defense, funnel it to Justin Jefferson. So it's not as explosive as what it was, or at least what was hopeful it would be. And that's not great for Jordan Addison or Justin Jefferson, even though I think that they are both going to have big target shares. Yeah, Aaron Jones sucked, man. He was playing awesome, like really outplaying Jordan Mason. He went down with a shoulder injury. He was coming back from the hamstring injury. We'll see there. They're calling him day-to-day, as Evan said. But yeah, we'll see if we get a full Jordan Mason workload here in Week 10 or not. Let's go to the Saints. Tyler Shuck goes to LA for an impossible spot as an NFL starter, and the Saints predictably get smoked. I mean, they just could not get a first down. The Saints ended up running 40 plays. And then on Tuesday, Saints trade away Rashid Shaheed to the Seahawks, get back that 4th and 5th round picks. Chris Olave, as expected, was not traded here at the deadline, and Alvin Kamara, as expected, was not traded at the deadline. They did make one trade here right at the deadline. Let me just pull it up real quick here. Saints get a 6th round pick. Chargers get Trevor Penning. So Trevor Penning has gone to the Chargers. We'll talk about the Joe Alt injury here when we get to them. But Trevor Penning is now a Charger. Evan, any thoughts on Tyler Shuck in LA or how the Shaheed deal leaves the Saints this season?
That's kind of interesting, Trevor Penning. He'd been starting at left guard. Last week, the Saints had lost Eric McCoy, their multiple-time Pro Bowl center, for the season. And then in this game, Talise Fuaga, their 2024 first-round pick, starting right tackle, suffered a high ankle sprain. He's not going to be playing anytime soon. So within the span of 2 weeks, the Saints just shed 3/5 of their starting offensive line. Per our buddy Nick Underhill, the Saints had the ball in this game for 16 minutes and 7 seconds. That is the 13th lowest time of possession in NFL history. So the Saints did not have the ball in this game, and no one's going to produce in fantasy when the offense doesn't have the ball. I mean, that's pretty indisputable.
Um, it has been a voluminous pass game. They're always losing and they play fast, and Kellen Moore is willing to throw the ball. So with Shaheed gone now, there is some opportunity here. Chris Olave stays. They have Brandon Cooks, who's just like washed. They traded these picks for Devon Vele, which was just an awful trade. Like, you see what receivers are worth now, and they gave up just about the same as they gave up for Shaheed for Vele, which is ridiculous. They have Juwan Johnson, who scored another touchdown here. But yeah, I think Chris Olave's target, I mean, he's going to be like among the leaders in targets for this season, period. And if you're in a pinch, you can probably get by with Juwan. Any interest for you in Vele or Cooks for deep leaguers out there, Evan?
Well, I got to tell you, we really missed the boat on Juwan Johnson. I had no idea that Juwan Johnson and Tyler Shuck played together for the Oregon Ducks back in 1987. So we really missed the the shower narrative there. And this has been your bit, Adam.
I played Juwan Johnson. I played him on DraftKings in cash. I was on the shower narrative.
Oh, you were on it.
It was good.
Fine.
It was good.
We should have talked about it more, obviously.
Oh, God. Yeah. Well, listen, Saints are tanking, man. And like, I actually think that's the right thing that they should be doing. I hated the Devon Vele trade that they made, and I think Rashid Shaheed's a good player. I don't think that they wanted to jump a big bag on Rashid Shaheed in the middle of this rebuild. So they're tanking. I think they're kind of doing the right thing here and trying to get the number 1 overall pick. So is what it is. Giants. This was the first Giants game since the Cam Scatterbo injury. And man, I just got it wrong. I expected Tyrone Tracy to be the clear lead back with Scatterbo out, way ahead of Devin Singletary. All the evidence I saw from last year and so far this year pointed to that. But Brian Daboll and the Giants come out and say, you know what? Singletary's our boy. He outsnaps Tyrone Tracy 32-25. Routes were Tracy 19, Singletary 15. Opportunities were Singletary 10, Tracy 9. So relatively even split there. Evan, what do you think about that and any other Giants thoughts?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I mean, last year, Tyrone Tracy with Devin Singletary on the roster, and last week, Tyrone Tracy was the dominant guy after Cam Scatterbo went out. So I don't feel we had good process there. Things that don't make sense happen all the time in the NFL. You just gotta.
Yeah, I don't really get why though. I mean, I'd love to know why.
Yeah, I mean, so would I. And it wouldn't surprise me if next week, like, it goes back to Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Ron. I'm gonna talk to Ron on about that. Actually, I'm gonna make a note.
Okay.
Yeah,
and because it's going to be a really nice matchup against the Bears. The Bears have been getting shredded by the run, and they just lost like multiple guys up on their defensive front. So it'll be a good matchup. We'll see. Try to get some information from Jordan for sure.
I will. I did think Jackson Dart had another solid game here. We had a big projection on him. I played him in cash on DraftKings. He runs 8 times for 56 yards and a touchdown. Jackson Dart has played 6 games now. His 17-game rushing pace is 138 carries, 711 yards, 14 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that's like a Josh Allen kind of rushing line. It's an exciting profile for Dart if he can get better weapons, get Malik Neighbors back at 100%. So, just really good sign for Dart, especially for fantasy.
Darius Slayton finally got a little bit in the box score, 5 for 62 on 7 targets. Then Wendell Robinson did his usual thing, 11 targets, 46 yards.
Let's go to the Eagles. The Eagles were on a bye. They will come out of it for a big game on Monday Night Football at Green Bay. Big story during the bye was the status of Saquon Barkley's groin injury. All reports have been that he's good. We'll know on Wednesday. Like, if he practices Wednesday, I'll be like, yeah, you're right. He's good, but we'll see on that. A.J. Brown was not traded. He's supposed to be back from his injury after the bye. Also, Eagles did make a trade, though, Evan. They give up a round 3 pick to get Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins. Howie always out there making moves in the trenches. So any thoughts on Eagles as they come out of their bye?
Cam Jurgens is another guy that I think that they could get back coming out of the bye. And then their offensive line will be fully intact, as you mentioned earlier in the show. The Eagles have been using Fred Johnson as a 6th offensive lineman. That really helps spark their running game. It should get even better with Cam Jurgens coming back, and they got the Packers this week, who just got ran all over by Rico Dowdle. So Saquon was, a disappointment in the first half of the season, partly due to reasons out of his control, but offensive line, the running game should be in better hands in the second half of the season.
By the way, Brandon Thorne released his mid-season offensive line rankings for anyone interested in that. That's up on the site right now. I'll also tweet a link to it later today when we get done with this. 49ers. 49ers get a solid win. This was a 1 p.m. Eastern game on the East Coast. Beat the Giants 34-24. Christian McCaffrey, man, the rare dud in week 8. CMC bounces back with 173 total yards on 33 more touches. CMC is now on pace for 317 carries and 115 catches. I mean, he can't stay healthy. He's going to get hurt. Oh, his calf. Oh. It's really hard to predict injuries in the NFL, and Christian McCaffrey is proving that once again. NFL. Evan, what do you think of 49ers win over the Giants?
Yeah, and they've really leaned into him. I mean, my goodness, he had 33 touches in this game. Since George Kittle came back, they've been, the offense has become even more centered around CMC. And Mac Jones Mac Jones played fine in this game. He played well in this game, but he's just not having a lot, 24 pass attempts. He's not going to really help you in fantasy doing that. He did average almost 10 yards per pass attempt. So they were super efficient when he threw the ball. But yeah, I mean, the focal point of this offense is undoubtedly Christian McCaffrey, and it's not even close. There is some speculation that maybe Ricky Pearsall could come back this week from his PCL, but this is not a good fantasy situation for any of the receivers. You're lucky that if you started Juwan Johnson, that you got 4 for 41 and a touchdown out of him, considering, I mean, they have not been throwing the ball with any kind of volume over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, Juwan Jennings. I did think that Juwan Jennings looked healthy, right? And I think that was like step one for him. But yeah, the volume was not there. Mac Jones only dropped back 29 times. Brandon Ayuk, there was some rumblings that he could be, his window could be activated this week. They came out today and announced, no, his window will not be opened this week. So maybe next week on the window for Brandon Ayuk.
So the window, I mean, that to me suggests that he's not within 3 weeks of returning to play, because the window spans 3 weeks.
Correct. It's not good.
Yeah. So, I mean, and Kyle Shanahan had been talking publicly that, about week 10. I mean, this is week 10, y'all. And is he not within 3 weeks of returning? I mean, I'm losing faith that Brandon Ayuk is going to be any kind of factor this regular season. Also, Kyle Shanahan was quoted as saying that Brock Purdy was not that close to being able to face the Giants. The 49ers continue to get wins with Mac Jones and this super CMC-focused formula on offense that they are deploying, and that they're going back home against the Rams. They'll probably try to do it again this week. But, I mean, they keep winning games with Mac Jones.
For sure. And they also haven't had their bye yet. So when you're thinking about, should I keep stashing these guys, they have a bye in week 14. So, even if they come back in week 11, 12, you're still going to have to deal with a week 14 bye on these guys. Also, they did lose Michael Williams, was their first round rookie to a torn ACL. Yeah. Another defensive injury for the 49ers.
Their defense has been ripped apart.
Really
by
bad.
Injuries.
Really, really bad. Yeah, one more just follow up on the Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan also said that the turf toe thing, it will not fully go away no matter when he comes back. So, they're expecting, even when Brock Purdy comes back, that toe is not going to be 100%. Last NFC team today is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think anyone needed the Week 9 bye more than the Tampa Bay Bucs. The status of Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin are the big ones here, plus getting Emeka Egbuka back to 100%. So a lot of injury stuff going on with the Bucs. We'll find out a lot more on Wednesday about the status of Bucky, Godwin, and I'm expecting Emeka Egbuka to be back to 100%, which is obviously good. Evan, any Bucs thoughts for you as they come out of their bye?
I got nothing.
One other thing. If Bucky is not back, one thing we saw in the game before the bye was Sean Tucker taking a bunch of work from Rachaad White. So it's just I just want to be careful about our Rachaad White projection here, where if he doesn't play well, if he gets stuffed at the goal line, they're at least willing to go to Sean Tucker here, as we saw in the game before the bye. All right, let's go to the AFC now. Start with the Baltimore Ravens. This was the Thursday game, and at long last, Lamar Jackson returns. Not only does Jackson return, but he returns at this outrageous throwing touchdown rate that we've seen from him recently. 4 touchdown passes on just 23 attempts for Lamar. Evan, what do you think of Ravens' win over the Dolphins last Thursday?
Yeah, they were not, the Ravens were not, and this is not surprising, but they were not super aggressive using Lamar Jackson as a runner. Also not super surprising that Lamar carved up the Dolphins on his pass attempts. This was a really good spot for Lamar because the Ravens, their offensive line is the healthiest that it's been since like week 1, and their entire pass catcher core was healthy as well.
Note for me on the Ravens was the Mark Andrews stuff and this red zone role. Remember, Mark Andrews last season had 11 touchdown catches on just 55 receptions. And then you see these 2 short touchdowns on Thursday. It's just a good reminder of Andrews' red zone role on this team. He ran 17 routes on 27 Lamar dropbacks in this game. Isaiah Likely, 13. So good sign at least for Andrews on the red zone stuff.
Yeah, it does kind of hurt these guys, Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, that Charlie Kolar has been, at least a little bit involved. I'm sure if you look at his route stuff, it's not super voluminous, but I mean, he's been scoring touchdowns in the red zone, which takes away from the other guys.
Breaking news into the show, Evan. The Cardinals have announced that Jacoby Brissett is their starting quarterback. So They're not messing around.
Wow.
They went to a news conference and said Jacoby Brissett will start here for Sunday's game in Seattle.
Well, I think we kind of knew that, right?
Yeah.
But did they actually name?
They did not say. Okay. This is breaking right now. I do not think he said rest of year. I think he said Jacoby will start against Seattle. Okay. I think. Let's go to the Buffalo Bills. Great win for the Bills over the arch rival Chiefs as a home dog here. Defense was very good for the Bills. Probably the best job they've ever done on Mahomes. So ride the defense, ride Josh Allen, ride James Cook, move to 6-2. Decently clear of the 5-4 Chiefs now as they battle for home field, which I think matters a ton when these two teams play. Evan, thoughts on Bills' win over the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, that was the kind of the story of the game. That was definitely the story of the game was the Bills' defense in this game. They hit Patrick Mahomes a ton. Was it? Yeah, 15 times. And Joey Bosa kind of went off, and so did Greg Rousseau. I mean, they have kind of struggled to generate big-time pass rush against Patrick Mahomes historically, but they got it going here. Khalil Shakir has caught 80% of his targets since week 6. You kind of know what you're going to get from him. We saw Dalton Kincaid had another big game. I mean, his on paper usage is never quite where you want it to be, his participation, but I mean, he's really taken a step forward this year in terms of his on-field results.
Yeah, I know I said at the top also, but just really disappointed they did not get another weapon for Josh Allen. It was not expensive to get Rashid Shaheed. They're going to ask Josh Allen now to win with short area guys like Shakir, Kincaid. I think they should try Keon Coleman in the slot, but they have not even explored doing that. So, yeah, they need a home games, I think is basically the bottom line if they're going to win the Super Bowl. Play Miami next, dude.
By the way, and we talked a little bit ago about the MVP odds, but Josh Allen is now the favorite.
Yes.
For MVP in the NFL. That was a huge, huge win for Buffalo.
Let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Flacco came into this game against the Bears with a throwing shoulder sprain. Doesn't matter. Flacco goes off for 470 passing yards, 4 touchdown passes in a wild 47-42 loss to the Bears. Flacco just drops back so much, man. I know I keep talking about this, but dropbacks per game this year, Flacco, 44 dropbacks per game, most in the NFL. Last year, different staff, different team, 38.6, fifth in the NFL. 2023, different staff, different team, 42.6, most in the NFL. The guy just drops back 35, 40, 45 times in a game like it's nothing on a weekly basis. Evan, what do you think of Flacco and the Bengals' loss to the Bears?
Yeah, and it makes you want, like, what would Joe Burrow be doing right now if
Oh
he
my
was
God.
in this? I mean, and T. Higgins is healthy, and Jamar Chase. I love to see that T. Higgins, who had been extremely out targeted by Jamar Chase over the previous 3 starts of Joe Flacco, he went off here. He mossed a dude right to end the first half, and he was just playing out of his mind. These dudes win in contested situations like no other receivers in the league. Samaje Perine went down early in this game with an ankle injury. Chase Brown went on to play 95% of the Bengals' offensive snaps, and he did not have a big game as a runner, but he did as a receiver. And he's been, I mean, it hasn't been just Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and whoever else rejuvenated by Joe Flacco. Chase Brown has been rejuvenated by Joe Flacco. So you love to see that it looked like a lost season for Chase Brown for so long. I mean, it was really, really painful. But he's finally starting to pay dividends, at least to the extent that you can start him confidently on a weekly basis.
I can't undersell this Perine injury enough for Chase Brown's outlook. You see what happens. Chase Brown would not have been out there when they were in the 1-minute drill, the 2-minute drill, the 4-minute drill. Chase Brown ends up with 14 targets. Probably like half of those would have gone to Perine if Perine was healthy. And so this is a huge injury for the Chase Brown projection. Huge.
They are going into their bye.
They are going into their bye, yes, sadly.
But, I mean, if this is a high ankle sprain for Samaje Perine, we're not going to see him for a few weeks.
Yeah. Last thing for me on the Bengals. Remember, fantasy playoffs, week 16 and week 17. Bengals will play the Dolphins and the Cardinals. So, yeah.
One more note, if I can figure out how to pull it up here. Oh, it's just that, man, it's got to hurt to be a Bengals offensive player right now. And I don't know if you've seen the quotes this week, but Chase Brown got in trouble. Can we just get one more freaking stop? I mean, he's pissed at the defense, and he has every right to be. Zach Taylor said, you can't be saying that if you're Chase Brown, and the Bengals have been scoring points at will, and they just cannot stop anybody. I said last week that the Cowboys are the worst defense in the NFL. Bengals are the worst defense in the NFL.
Ugh, God. And by the way, Trey Hendrickson was not traded, so hopefully he'll get healthy and over the bye and be able to help the defense. But yeah, they're just so bad. Browns were on a bye. They will come out of it to face the Jets on Sunday. Big questions for the Browns during their bye week was, would David Njoku get traded? Answer is no. Would Jerome Ford get traded? Answer is no. Will we see Shadur Sanders get a start in week 10? Answer is no. So just no's all around here for the Browns. Evan, any thoughts on them as they come out of their bye and the decision not to trade David Njoku or Jerome Ford?
I have no idea why they held on to David Njoku. I mean, it doesn't even make any sense to retain him because he's not going to be back with the team. I don't think. I mean, that wouldn't make sense for him to be back with the team either. Shadur Sanders has a back injury, so I don't know if we're going to see him anytime soon. Cedric Tillman's IR window was opened.
Yeah, they said he's going to play, so that's good. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So he will probably be returning in week 10. Quinshon Judkins suffered an AC joint sprain before the bye, but it sounds like they're confident in having him back.
Yep.
And the Browns changed offensive play callers for the second year in a row. They're changing play callers from Kevin Stefanski. Last year they did to Ken Dorsey. This year to Tommy Reese, who played quarterback at Notre Dame and wasn't very good. And then, was the play caller at Notre Dame, and then he abandoned Notre Dame to go to Alabama. And, he's a Machiavellian kind of guy, and now he's in the NFL. So best of luck.
I was disappointed that David Njoku was not traded because I have a bunch of Fannin and I have a bunch of Njoku. And from fantasy, I wanted them split apart. I didn't know where it was going to be, but they decided not to make the move. Also surprised they held on to Jerome Ford too, given that Judkins is healthy and they have Dylan Sampson. I would have loved to see them just go with those two guys, but alas, they did not. Other bad news, by the way, Myles Garrett is up to the second choice to be Defensive Player of the Year, only behind Micah Parsons. Our guy Nick Bonito is now fourth after another quiet game. He's down to plus 850 here is Benito in the Defensive Player of the Year race.
Well, I'll tell you what, Denver does have a primetime game coming up on Thursday night
Against the
against
Raiders.
the Raiders.
Yep.
So this is a huge opportunity for our Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Benito.
Yep. We need like 5 sacks on Thursday night. Speaking of the Broncos, they went to Houston and staged another fourth quarter rally, this time 11 points in the fourth to beat the Texans and Davis Mills in relief 18-15. This was a very ugly offensive game. I think somewhat as expected, given these are two of the best defenses in the entire NFL. Evan, what do you think of Broncos getting their 7th win already here at Houston?
Yeah, no surprises on either side. This is exactly how I envisioned this game playing out. I think my final score projection was 17-16, and it was 18-15. I get plenty wrong every single week, and we'll talk about it. But it's nice to be right every once in a while.
Marvin Mims did not play in this game due to concussion. That allowed Troy Franklin to run 35 routes on 39 Bo Nix dropbacks, and also Troy Franklin on that usage out-targeted Cortland Sutton 10-6. So we'll see what happens when Marvin Mims gets back. But while Marvin Mims is out, Troy Franklin is playing an absolute ton. This was not a great spot for him to go off, but I just want to note that. Also, RJ Harvey, I mean, another touchdown. This guy's touchdown to touch ratio is just completely out of control. Catches 5 balls for 51 yards and a touchdown, but he only played 20 snaps. And it's like, oh yeah, well, Dobbins only played 29. Tyler Batty played 14. They refuse to use Harvey in these third down stuff. And so all he gets is the scraps behind Dobbins. It's just remains frustrating.
It just makes RJ Harvey really hard to play in fantasy in a season-long league. You're like, God, this dude's playing 30% of the snaps. They do throw him the ball.
Yep.
But he's playing 30% of the snaps, so, and, he was going up against Houston. So it's like, you kind of don't want to play him. And then he winds up, scoring a bunch of points because he gets 5 catches, 51 yards in the air and a touchdown. And then, people are kind of trying to make it a deal that maybe Troy Franklin is passing Cortland Sutton as the Broncos' number 1 receiver. I can tell you that the Texans don't think that that's happening because they put Derek Stingley on Cortland Sutton on 27 of his 34 routes. And, Derek Stingley's awesome. And Cortland Sutton, he had 1 catch in this game. He did beat Derek Stingley on that catch for a 30-yard touchdown. Yeah. But I'm just not so sure. Troy Franklin, he's making his move. No question. This has been a huge step forward year for him. I don't know that I would call him the Broncos' number 1 receiver just yet, though.
Neither would I. And I more just want to see him completely ice Marvin Mims. And by the way, Marvin Mims looks like he's going to be back. He was practicing here today for the Broncos.
I was going to say, because he was DNP on Monday.
Yeah.
But they need, especially off the concussion, they usually need to get back by Tuesday. So, I would expect him to play on Thursday night.
Okay. Texans. So they lose this game 18-15. CJ Stroud only played 23 snaps. He sustains a concussion. They have to go to Davis Mills for the final 50 offensive snaps, and it was predictably ugly. Hopefully Stroud gets cleared for week 10 against the Jaguars, but that's going to be a tight battle there. Evan, any thoughts on Texans' loss to the Broncos?
No, it was nice to see Nico Collins back from his concussion, and he was fairly productive, 7 for 75. But, Davis Mills is not good. Davis Mills is not good at all. 4.6 yards per pass attempt. Again, against the Broncos. But we've seen the Davis Mills stuff before, and he does not have it. So that's a huge concern, obviously, especially behind this offensive line. Huge concern if he has to make any starts. Houston has the Jaguars coming up.
All right, dude. There were 47 quarterback dropbacks in this game for the Texans, and Jalen Noel ran 6 routes. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, man. They gave Xavier Hutchinson 31 routes, Christian Kirk 33 routes, and Jalen Noel, despite looking like an actually really intriguing prospect that can help them, they are desperate for playmakers that can help them, 6 routes for Jalen Noel. So I don't know what's going on there. It strikes me as very odd. They were rotating him with Braxton Berrios in the week before, but I want to see the kid play more, man. And, I want to see him play more.
I think that there's a lot of people in the organization that want to see him play more as well. but the coaching staff decisions are like super old school and like archaic, and they stick by the philosophy like, you can't lose your job,
When you're
if
hurt,
you
yeah.
due to injury. So
Yeah.
then, Christian Kirk comes back, and I mean, Jalen Noel just goes away, and that is frustrating. I mean, Jalen Noel was balling on his chances, and then all of a sudden he gets no chances.
I was also frustrated that Woody Marks did not get a bump here. He gets out carried by Nick Chubb 11-10. And then the other thing, I'm watching the game, I thought my eyes were deceiving me. British Brooks, not Nick Chubb, not Woody Marks, British Brooks got 2 goal line carries in this game, which was really, really weird. He failed on both. So I don't know what this coaching staff is doing, man, but I want to see Jalen Noel and I want to see Woody Marks. I think it would help them a lot. If you guys are listening, please. It'll help all
British Brooks, huh? I was. Can we keep Europe out of American football, please?
He sounds like a professional wrestler, British Brooks.
He
Okay.
does. The British Bulldog.
Indianapolis Colts. So it took half the season, but we finally got a bad Daniel Jones game. 31 of 50 passing, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, takes 5 sacks and loses 2 fumbles. Colts lose 27-20 to Pittsburgh. I mean, they turned the ball over 6 times and still only lost 27-20. Now, on Tuesday, they make their move. Give up 2 first-rounders plus A.D. Mitchell in exchange for Sauce, a.k.a. Ahmed Gardner, the shadow corner of the Jets. So, Evan, what do you think of the face plant, or maybe not face plant, what do you think of the really bad game in Pittsburgh, and then also the trade for Sauce Gardner today that the Colts made?
The Steelers I think the credit goes to the Steelers. It came down to the turnovers, 6 turnovers. No one can survive that. But the Steelers pressured Daniel Jones on 18 times, which was the most by far that he's been pressured this year. I mean, the Steelers, like if you look at their personnel on defense, and a lot of them are getting older, and that's why, a big reason for why they struggled. I mean, they have TJ Watt, they have Cam Hayward, they have Derek Harmon, a first round pick. They have Joey Porter. They moved Jalen Ramsey to safety in this game, and he played really, really well. They got Kyle Duggar, and he played well in this game. I mean, they played a really good game. They have Alex Highsmith. Like, they have a lot of dudes who have a lot of accomplishments in the NFL, and they have some young talent like Derek Harmon and Keanu Benton and Peyton Wilson, and they played a good game. They played a really, really good game, and this was another very large upset.
What do you think about the Sauce Gardner trade? They gave up a lot to get Sauce Gardner. We have talked on here about how maybe he's not like complete shutdown. He's not Surtain. He's not Revis, but he has done a pretty good job. I'll even admit this year on shadow assignments. Do you think this matters, or how much does it matter for Colts defense?
Oh, yeah, it matters big time. It matters big time because he's a dude who can play man coverage, and so can Charvarius Ward, who is currently on IR because he suffered 2 concussions. But he should be back for the stretch run, and now they can insert Sauce Gardner. I mean, they were really struggling at. I mean, you remember they opened the season with Xavier Howard, who since retired, as their number 2 cornerback. So this was a big hole in their defense. Their front has played really well. Obviously the offense has been the best in the league to this point. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot to give up, dude. Like, it was a freaking lot to give up. But I understand, like, they're going for it. I don't know if at the end of the day, still Daniel Jones, but like they're going for it, and I get it.
By the way, a lot of sharps were on Alec Pierce in this game. He actually did lead the team in targets with 13 for a 26% share, 6 catches, 115 yards, and then they let A.D. Mitchell go. Not that A.D. Mitchell was any threat. They just, had enough of him. We'll talk more about that.
I'm just guessing that like they couldn't have him around anymore because he lost them a game on his own.
Yeah.
And I mean, they couldn't play him because like the other players on the team would be like, hell no. Like, we cannot have this dude in the game. It's nice for A.D. Mitchell, and we'll talk about that when we get to the Jets. Like, if I had A.D. Mitchell in a dynasty league, I would like this.
Okay. I hate to keep going back to Arizona stuff, but just to follow up and close the loop on this, Schefter just tweeted, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals have consulted multiple doctors on his foot injury and have been told the timetable for recovery is anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, with an increased chance of setback until it's properly healed. Murray now has more time to heal. In other words, Cardinals are trying to put it out there. It's the foot. They're not benching him. It's the foot. We knew this was going to happen, but make no mistake, he got benched.
Sounds like he's going to go. Kyler Murray's going to go play baseball
or Xbox.
Or Xbox.
Let's go to the Chiefs. So this was a big game in Buffalo, huge game, and the Chiefs fell flat. Despite having Rashee Rice and all his weapons healthy, Patrick Mahomes, 15 of 34 for 250 yards, 0 touchdowns. Also only ran the ball one time. I mean, I did not think that this was really possible for Mahomes in a really big game with all his weapons to not only have a really bad day throwing, but also only run it one time. So, Evan, what do you think of Chiefs game up there in Buffalo?
Yeah, that was it was big for Buffalo and a tough loss for KC. I mean, and we talked about it when we talked about Buffalo, is the pressure generated by the Bills was so huge in this game. And the Chiefs have been getting by with Jalen Moore, who'd been playing really well at left tackle, and now they have their bye, and Josh Simmons just came back from the personal thing that he was attending to. And so I would assume that coming out of the bye, Josh Simmons, the Chiefs' first-round pick, will go back to starting at left tackle. But that was a big problem against Buffalo. When Patrick Mahomes was pressured, he went 3 of 16 for 61 yards and a pick. So that pressure, he was not able to overcome the insurmountable amount of pressure that Buffalo generated against him.
How worried are you about Xavier Worthy at this point? Worthy and Rashee Rice have played 6 full games together with the Chiefs. Now, the first 3 of these were Worthy's first 3 games of his NFL career. He only had 2 catches for 47 and a touchdown, 2-17-0, 2-17-0. That's how he started his career when Rashee Rice was healthy. Then Rashee Rice gets hurt, and I thought Worthy actually performed really well down the stretch into the playoffs. Now he's back in a different role again with Rashee Rice back, 3 for 35-0. 5 for 53-0. And then against the Bills, 323-0. So I don't want to go crazy on this and freak out. It's only 6 games. 3 of them were the first 3 games of his career. These last 3, he's been banged up this year. Remember, he popped his shoulder out. But it doesn't feel right to me when Rice is out there that Worthy is just doing the Jameson Williams thing. So how concerned are you about Worthy, if at all, here, Evan?
I mean, you were right about this. You had this pegged. When Rashee Rice came back, I was staying optimistic about Xavier Worthy that he could still have at least be a boom bust guy like Deshaun Jackson, under Andy Reid, Xavier Worthy under Andy Reid, and he hasn't had any booms.
Yeah.
He's not going to have any booms. Xavier Worthy's not going to have any booms when Patrick Mahomes is under immense amount of duress, because Xavier Worthy has to have longer developing routes down the football field to catch deep passes, and that's his route tree now. So yeah, I mean it's super concerning. I think for Xavier Worthy, you have to treat him as a boom bust guy who, has been much more likely to boom or to bust than to boom, and that's not a great place to be in fantasy football when we like our guys to get 5, 6, 7 catches a week, and he's drawing the short end of the stick on that one.
I mean, there's multiple ways to get ceiling in fantasy. You can get ceiling by running deep down the field and catching bombs, or if you get 10 targets in a game, you have a ceiling, period, no matter who you are. So unless you're Wan'Dale Robinson. But it has not been a great year for the speed guys being used this way. Matthew Golden, Xavier Worthy, Jameson Williams. It's just not been a great year for that archetype, and I think that's something to do with the way the NFL is playing defense these days. Last note for me on the Chiefs. This was the first game since Isaiah Pacheco's injury. Kareem Hunt played 47 of 60 snaps, even in a game they were trailing. Only 12 snaps for Brashard Smith, 2 for CEH, 47 for Kareem Hunt. I was surprised, Evan. I don't know if you were, but I was surprised that they did not make a push for Breece Hall. I don't think it was going to be expensive. Maybe a 4th-round pick conditional to a 3rd or something. And I think the Jets might have done that. I don't know for sure. I'm just totally speculating. But if I was going for the Super Bowl, I don't really want it's going to be on Mahomes. But I do not want the defense to be it's Kareem Hunt. He can't run for more than 15 yards anyways. I think they would have benefited from having Breece Hall on their team. Evan, are you surprised the Chiefs did not make a move at running back here at the deadline?
I don't know if I would say that I'm surprised. I am surprised, though, after the Jets just traded their 2 best defensive players, that they didn't just try to trade almost everyone. But, I don't know, maybe the Jets are looking at maybe giving Breece Hall an extension, which I don't, extending a running back who has a history of injuries, that doesn't make sense to me either. But I'm surprised that Breece Hall was not traded in light of the fact that the Jets traded Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of point there.
Yep. Chargers. So Chargers win at Tennessee as expected, but it wasn't as easy as people thought that it would be. Just 5.3 yards per play for the Chargers here in this game. Titans completely eliminated Kimani Vidal. Good news for the Quentin Johnston people out there. He pops back up for 453-1 on 5 targets. I have some more thoughts on that, but Evan, what do you think of Chargers win over the Titans?
Well, the big story and the devastating story here is that Joe Alt, who was playing at a legitimately all-pro level when he was healthy and had already come back from a high ankle sprain, suffered another high ankle sprain, will need surgery, assuming it's that tightrope surgery, and he's done for the season. And this is a devastating blow to the Chargers because their offensive line was already hanging by a thread. Mekhi Becton he did not play in this game. Bobby Hart, their starting right tackle, left with left ankle and groin injuries. Obviously, Rashawn Slater is long gone. They made this move for Trevor Penning at the deadline. I mean, that's a desperation move. Trevor Penning has not been good in the NFL. God, are they going to play him at left tackle? Because he was a disaster at left tackle for the Saints. He had been playing left guard. Justin Herbert has been hit on a league-high 21% of his dropbacks this season, and I brought up last week the on and off splits for Justin Herbert with Joe Alt in the lineup, and I mean they're dramatic. It's I all of a sudden I have a lot less optimism for the Chargers going forward than I did a week ago.
So when Joe Alt has been out this year, and obviously Slater's been out, when they've both been out, they have changed their game plans. They have been more run heavy than throw heavy when those guys have been out. So we were so excited about Herbert and just throwing it all over the place. I don't know that they can do that with this offensive line situation. It's just so bad. So we'll probably have them with a decent run rate here going forward. Vidal could not get anything going in this game. Maybe that's offensive line stuff. Maybe it's fluky. We'll see. Speaking of the running backs, Chargers confirmed that Amarian Hampton is not expected to return until after the Week 12 bye. Just brutal for everybody who has Amarian Hampton because he was going to have a really good year, and it's just absolutely brutal. The Quentin Johnston stuff I wanted to comment on. So Trey Harris is now running a decent amount of routes on a weekly basis. I'm a little worried, or I'm very worried now, that the volume for Justin Herbert pass attempts is going down, and you're adding Trey Harris, and you've added Oronde Gadsden in here. You have a lot of guys that deserve the ball, and I'm not sure how much volume that we're going to get. So yeah, this was a good one for QJ. I could see him airballing next week, or I could see Keenan airballing, or I could see Ladd underwhelming like he did here. I think it's going to be volatile on a week-to-week basis. My favorite remains Ladd, but it's going to be very hard to figure out Herbert stacks, who to start among QJ and Gadsden and guys like that. I mean, at tight end, obviously you're starting Gadsden every week. But yeah, any more thoughts on QJ here, Evan, and wide receiver going forward?
I have the same thoughts as you.
All right. Dolphins got trucked by the Ravens on Thursday night. They were never really in it. They lose 28-6. After that game on Friday, Dolphins announced a quote-unquote mutual parting of ways with GM Chris Grier. Chris Grier had been with the Dolphins as a GM since 2016. He started with the team as a scout way back in 2000, so a really, really long run here for Chris Grier. Now, the team hasn't won a playoff game in 25 years, so I get it. But I was a little worried this was going to be like a total cleaning of the house. On the same day they announced Grier is gone, they announced Mike McDaniel, my brother, will remain head coach for the remainder of the season. And now they're talking about Mike McDaniel getting like a long-term deal maybe at some point here as well. So they're clearly made their move.
Too?
What's up?
They're going to make him the GM too?
Maybe. And so they clearly are putting the blame on the team that Mike McDaniel was given, not Mike McDaniel. That's what ownership is saying right now. So Evan, thoughts on that and anything on the Ravens game that the Dolphins played on Thursday?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that all these moves. I mean, the Dolphins didn't do anything against the Ravens. They scored 6 points, but I think that all of these moves are really good news for Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle for the rest of the season, because that's how the offense is going to be built around those guys. And we've seen that Mike McDaniel is willing to hit the button over and over and over and over and over again to Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. So if you got those guys, you should feel really, really good about them the rest of the way.
Yeah. I tweeted that, basically exactly what Evan said, and I got a lot of pushback from people who were like, their offense sucks. Listen, with somebody other than Mike McDaniel, it would be way worse. I mean, the level that Tua is playing at right now, to sustain Achane and Waddle, I think is an accomplishment for Mike McDaniel. So I'm not saying he's doing the best job ever, or he did a good job last year, because he probably didn't. But if you have these guys and want them scheme the ball, I think Mike McDaniel is the best that you're going to get. They did not trade Jalen Waddle. Supposedly they were listening, was the report. They wanted a first round pick plus more for Jalen Waddle, and other teams scoffed at that. I think Jalen Waddle is like on a reasonable contract and a piece that you want to have. So I do not blame them for trading him. They did trade Jalen Phillips. They did not trade Bradley Chubb. Also on Thursday night, Ollie Gordon hurt his ankle. Didn't sound serious, but that's one to watch, as he was taking some short yardage based stuff from Achane. Oh, yeah, this Tua stuff. Mike McDaniel was asked if he's sticking with Tua as his starting quarterback. And all Mike McDaniel said was, we play the players who give us the best chance to win. If that changes, we adjust there. If they had something other than Quinn Ewers and Zach Wilson, maybe they make a move here. If they have Jacoby Brissett, maybe they make a move. But they don't. So I think they're going to stick with Tua for now. Do you have any interest, Evan, in seeing Zach Wilson or Quinn Ewers? Do you think they could help them at any point over Tua?
No.
Yeah, neither do I. Patriots hold on for a win over the Falcons, move to 7-2. The big story coming into this game was, with Ramondre Stevenson out, how would TreVeyon Henderson fare? From a usage perspective, I thought it was solid. TreVeyon played 51 out of 68 snaps, 75%. He lost some short yardage, some goal line stuff to Terrell Jennings, but he still outcarried Jennings 14-11. And then TreVeyon, 6 targets for 21% share, which is obviously really strong. So, Evan, what do you think of TreVeyon's first game as the lead back for the Patriots, and any other New England thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was really promising for him. 81% of the snaps. I mean, that's exactly what you want. He had 18 touches. He had a 22% target share, TreVeyon Henderson. I think it dispels any of those stupid conspiracy theories that the Patriots coaching staff hates him. He just hadn't been playing well, and now he's played better lately, and so he's going to get more opportunities, especially when Ramondre Stevenson goes down. So, I mean, he can continue to stack good reps, then he'll continue to get more playing time.
Well, I think the question now is, when Ramondre gets back, how do you think this looks? Because TreVeyon was really only playing 10, 15 snaps in a game. Do you think that rises when Ramondre gets back here?
I think it depends on performance. I mean, the Patriots are playing for a lot here. They can't afford guys to be, screwing up pass blocks and fumbling, or, blowing assignments. Like, the Patriots are in first place in the AFC East. They've won 6 games in a row. Drake May is starting to take way too much punishment. Drake May has taken 16 sacks over his last 3 games. I know you've been kind of pounding the drum for let's play defenses against Drake May. That's not a good situation for the Patriots to be in, though. So it's just going to come down to performance.
Only Cam Ward has taken more sacks this season than Drake May. So, I mean, he's taking a ton of sacks here. And yeah, I didn't love playing Falcons defense this week in DFS, but projections team and Leone checked this like 4 times and felt really good about it. And they ended up being one of the better defenses on the week. So yeah, shout out to the spreadsheet bros. Last note on Patriots. Kayshon Boutte hurt his hamstring in this game. They're calling him day to day. Mike Vrabel already came out and said, if Kayshon Boutte can't go, Kyle Williams is going to play a ton. So that's something to watch there. Do want to get a look at Kyle Williams. He was a 3rd-round pick that I know a lot of people liked in this year's draft. Let's go to the Jets. So what a week for the Jets, man. They actually won in week 8 They beat the Bengals. Then they get the bye. And then they go absolutely ham at the trade deadline. They trade away Quinn Williams. They trade away Sauce Gardner. They now have 2 first-round picks in 2026, 2 second-round picks in 2026. In 2027, the Jets have 3 first-round picks. Like, they're going full Oklahoma City Thunder in terms of how many first-round picks that they have here. And when you're rebuilding, this is the way to do it. So I'd have to think about it more, but my initial gut here as we sit here right at the trade deadline, Jets did well to try to completely rebuild their team. Evan, what do you think about all these moves that the Jets made at the deadline?
I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it, man. You're 1-7 or whatever. I don't know. You have 1 win on the season, and you get. I mean, I think that they won both trades in terms of compensation. Their GM Darren Moogie's not like a really high profile guy at all, but I think he cooked here. You know, Darren Moogie was a wide receiver at San Diego State who plays quarterbacks at San Diego State were Kevin O'Connell and Ryan Lindley. You know, I'm sure that you remember him. But anyways, you know, facts that are meaningless. But I mean, I'd love it if I was a Jets fan. Heck yeah, man. I mean, this gives me optimism for the future. And all the Jets have had for years and years has been, you know, negativity followed by maybe a little optimism, and then, you know, expectations not met.
Right.
But I love what they did at the trade deadline. I have to assume that they go back to Justin Fields at quarterback because he just helped get them their first win. You know, their defense was bad before they got rid of Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, and now it's going to be a swinging gate rest of the way.
Yeah. So, like, when we're talking about doing projections for this week, I don't think we're going to change much on the Dallas side for getting Quinnen Williams, but removing Sauce and Quinnen will probably give a little bit of a boost beyond what we have in the model because they lost these 2 guys here this week, did the Jets. They didn't trade Brees. We already talked about that one. Still think you should have Isaiah Davis as a 1 injury away guy on your team. Garrett Wilson is expected back from his knee injury this week. Teams were calling. When you have a fire sale, people are going to call. The report was teams were calling on Garrett Wilson, and the Jets said he's untouchable. So it was a total fire sale, but Garrett Wilson was untouchable. I think that's notable. And they also get A.D. Mitchell here. I like this move for the Jets, man. I think A.D. Mitchell can really, really play. Is he a bonehead off the field? Is he a bonehead on the field? Probably. But the Jets need some talent, and they need it bad, man. And he is a huge upgrade for them if he can actually come in and be their number 2 wide receiver. I don't think I'd pick him up in a normal size league. I don't think, Evan, but maybe you can make a case for it. I don't know. What do you think about A.D. Mitchell on the Jets?
Plenty of stories since the beginning of the founding of American football about, you know, wide receivers that were maybe perceived as boneheads becoming great wide receivers in the NFL. So, yeah, I mean, they got him as a throw-in here. And, I mean, he obviously had outlasted his welcome with the Colts, and the perfect kind of guy to take a chance on a change of scenery only in his second year, I believe, of his rookie contract. So they got him cheaply, cost-wise, for the next 2 years. Yeah, I mean, I love that guy as a throw-in. A.D. Mitchell, love that. Again, Darren Moogie cooked at the trade deadline. Would I pick him up? I don't know. Maybe. You know, I think in like FFPC where you have like 20, 22-man rosters or whatever, I think he's worth a spot at the very end of your bench. But those are deep bench leagues, and I think that's kind of the cutoff. I mean, I'm not rushing out to get him.
Yeah, I mean,
remember, like, the Jets don't throw the ball.
Right.
I mean, they run the football with their quarterback and with their running back.
I mean, in theory, Justin Fields is a good deep ball thrower, and A.D. Mitchell is open a lot down the field. So in theory, at least, like, it makes some sense. But yeah, I agree. The volume is going to be a problem. Steelers win by forcing the Colts into 6 turnovers. They deserve credit for that. But also, like, the Steelers' offense was not great. They could not run the ball, just 1.7 yards per carry. And Aaron Rodgers only had 203 passing yards on 39 dropbacks. That's pretty bad. So great win for them, but it was all about the turnovers. Offense was not great. What do you think of Steelers' win over the Colts, Evan?
The Steelers just tried nothing downfield. Aaron Rodgers' ADOT in this game was below 3 yards.
Oh, my God.
So everything at or behind the line of scrimmage. And that will explain. I like DK Metcalf's outlook on paper. In this game, he did nothing. 2 catches for 6 yards on 4 targets. When you play that way, you're not going to get a whole lot of production in the pass catcher department.
They're showing like a real dedication to Jaylen Warren. 16 carries for Jaylen Warren in this game, only 3 for Gainwell, 1 for Caleb Johnson. Warren also was the goal line back, punches in 2 to kind of save his fantasy day. Gainwell did play 23 snaps, Caleb 5, so snaps were closer, but just the touches and where Jaylen Warren's getting his touches remains super valuable. And yes, big news. The Marquez Valdez-Scantling signing is official. He is a Steeler once again. Steelers did not make a move at the deadline.
I think he's on the practice squad, but he is an Aaron Rodgers buddy, so he'll probably be on the 53 by the end of the week.
Indeed. Last team here today is the Tennessee Titans. Titans lose at home again to the Chargers. They are now 0-4. They got a special teams touchdown in this game. They got a pick 6 in this game, and they still couldn't win. Cam Ward, 12 of 21 for 145 yards, no touchdowns, takes 4 more sacks. It's just not much to say about the Titans, man. Any thoughts on their loss to the Chargers?
The Titans bailed at the trade deadline too. I mean, they didn't make super high profile moves like the Jets did or anything, but they traded away 2 cornerbacks, 1 a starter in Roger McCreary, and they traded Draymond Jones, one of their better rotational defensive linemen. So they know that their season is cooked. I mean, they already fired their freaking coach. There's no optimism in the water for the Titans the rest of the way.
Yeah, I don't know if people wanted Tony Pollard, but they decided to keep him, and it's devolved in kind of a relatively even or almost very even split now between Tajee Spears and Tony Pollard here on a weekly basis. And also Calvin Ridley was also rumored to be traded. He did not get traded either, and he remains hurt with the hamstring. All right. That is going to do it for a very, very busy edition of the Team by Team show. Hopefully, that was a good recap for you guys to get your head around what happened at the trade deadline and in week 9. If this was helpful, please hit subscribe on the YouTube. It is indeed totally free. For Evan, producer Ryan, producer Luke, for Jerry, who I'm going to look into cloning right after this show, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.